For more than 5 decades, the world believed it knew the full story of Bruce Lee. The legend, the icon, the dragon. But what if everything you thought you knew was incomplete? For 53 years, one man stayed silent. A man who stood face to face with Bruce Lee, trained beside him, fought him on screen, and witnessed his true power off camera. That man is Beyond the Lookout Yeung. Known to millions as the terrifying villain from Enter the Dragon, Bolo Yeung was more than just an actor with a muscular physique. Behind the scenes, he was part of an inner circle very few people ever entered. A circle that saw Bruce Lee not as a myth, but as a human being with secrets the world was never meant to hear. Until now, in recent revelations, Bolo Yeung finally broke his silence. And what he revealed shocked even the most devoted Bruce Lee fans. He spoke about moments that were never filmed, about abilities Bruce Lee deliberately hid from the public, about fears, discipline, and a level of control that bordered on the unreal. According to Bolo Yeung, Bruce Lee was far more dangerous than what the movies showed. Not because of aggression, but because of restraint. Why would the greatest martial artist of all time hold back? Why did Bruce Lee refuse to demonstrate his full strength, even to his closest peers? And most disturbing of all, why were certain truths buried immediately after his sudden death? For decades, rumors spread. Some were dismissed as conspiracy. Others were quietly erased. But Bolo Yeung claims the industry didn't want the world to know the real Bruce Lee, because the truth was inconvenient, and perhaps too powerful. This is not a story told by journalists. This is not speculation from fans. This is a confession from a man who stood inches away from Bruce Lee's fists and lived to talk about it. Tonight, we begin uncovering what was hidden for 53 years. Who was Bruce Lee when the cameras stopped rolling? What secret did Beyond the Lookout Yeung carry all this time? And why is he finally speaking now? Stay with us, because once you hear the truth, you will never see Bruce Lee the same way again. Before the world knew him as a symbol of raw power and fear, Bolo Yeung was simply a disciplined martial artist growing up in Hong Kong. Long before the cameras, the fame, and the global recognition, Bolo dedicated his life to physical perfection. Bodybuilding was not a hobby for him. It was an obsession. Every muscle was trained with purpose, every movement refined with control. In the 1960s, Hong Kong's martial arts scene was small but fiercely competitive. Fighters, stuntmen, and athletes crossed paths daily, pushing each other to their limits. It was in this intense environment that Bolo Yeung's path crossed with a man who would soon change the world forever, Bruce Lee. At that time, Bruce Lee was not yet a global icon. He was a restless innovator, constantly questioning traditional martial arts and searching for something more efficient, more real. While others focused on appearance, Bruce focused on effectiveness. And when he saw Bolo Yeung, he didn't see just a bodybuilder. He saw potential. Their first interactions were not dramatic. No legendary duel. No public showdown. Just mutual observation. Two warriors studying each other in silence. Bolo Yeung later recalled that Bruce Lee's presence was different from anyone else's. He didn't speak much, but when he did, every word carried weight. His movements were quiet, precise, and almost effortless, yet filled with explosive intent. Bruce Lee didn't waste energy. He controlled it. As their professional relationship grew, so did their respect for one another. Bruce Lee often trained with actors and fighters after long filming hours, pushing them beyond exhaustion. But Bolo Yeung noticed something unusual. Bruce never trained to impress. He trained to understand. According to Bolo, Bruce Lee constantly tested limits, not just physical but mental. He would ask questions others were afraid to ask. He would challenge traditions others blindly followed. And that mindset made him dangerous, not just in combat, but in thought. When Enter the Dragon entered production, Bruce Lee personally selected Bolo Yeung for the role of the antagonist. The choice was not accidental. Bruce wanted a presence that looked unstoppable, someone who could visually represent raw power, so that Bruce's calm precision would appear even more terrifying in contrast. On set, Bolo Yeung witnessed something the audience never did. Between takes, Bruce Lee practiced techniques that were never meant for the screen. Movements too fast for the camera. Strikes too controlled to be believable. Bolo would later admit that many times Bruce intentionally slowed himself down because showing his true speed would make the scenes look fake. Despite his dominance, Bruce Lee treated everyone with respect. There was no ego, no arrogance, just focus. Bolo Yeung described him as a man constantly at war with his own limits. But fame changes environments. As Bruce Lee's influence grew, so did the tension around him. The industry began to feel threatened. A man who refused to follow rules was becoming too powerful, too independent. And according to Bolo Yeung, this was when things started to feel wrong. The atmosphere shifted. Conversations became guarded. Smiles felt forced. And then, suddenly, Bruce Lee was gone. For years, Bolo Yeung remained silent. Not out of fear, but out of loyalty. Until now. What Bolo Yeung reveals next raises questions the world was never prepared to ask. The world remembers Bruce Lee as a flawless martial arts icon. Fast, loud, explosive, and invincible. But according to Bolo Yeung, that image barely scratched the surface. The real Bruce Lee existed far beyond movie frames, beyond scripted choreography, and far beyond what the public was ever allowed to see. Off camera, Bruce Lee was quieter, sharper, more intense. Bolo Yeung recalled that Bruce rarely joked during training. While others laughed and competed for attention, Bruce studied. He watched every movement, every mistake, every reaction. His eyes missed nothing. To Bruce Lee, martial arts was not entertainment, it was truth. What made Bruce truly terrifying was not strength alone, but control. He had the ability to switch from complete stillness to violent motion in a fraction of a second. Bolo Yeung described it as standing next to a loaded weapon with the safety off. There was no warning, no wasted movement, just instant impact. Bruce Lee's training methods shocked even experienced fighters. He believed pain was information. Every bruise, every strain, every failure was analyzed, not avoided. He experimented constantly, blending boxing footwork, fencing timing, and traditional kung fu principles into something entirely new. This system would later be known as Jeet Kune Do, but at the time, it had no name. It was raw, evolving, and dangerous. Bolo Yeung admitted that Bruce Lee deliberately hid the true extent of his abilities. Not out of humility, but out of awareness. Bruce knew that if people truly understood how fast and powerful he was, they would either try to exploit him or fear him. Neither outcome interested him. There were moments during training when Bruce would demonstrate techniques and then immediately stop, as if realizing he had revealed too much. He would smile, change the subject, and move on. According to Bolo, this wasn't paranoia, it was strategy. Bruce Lee understood something few fighters ever do. Visibility attracts resistance. Despite his calm exterior, Bruce carried an internal pressure that few noticed. He slept little. He trained relentlessly. His mind never rested. Bolo Yeung believed Bruce was driven not by fame, but by urgency, as if he knew his time was limited. Bruce Lee often spoke about death, not with fear, but with clarity. He believed life should be lived with absolute intensity, because it could end without warning. To Bolo Yeung, these conversations felt unsettling, especially in hindsight. The more powerful Bruce became, the more isolated he grew. Traditional martial artists criticized him. Film studios tried to control him. Cultural boundaries tightened around him. He didn't belong to any single world, and that made him a target. Bolo Yeung described Bruce Lee as a man ahead of his time, trapped inside a system that wasn't ready for him. He challenged traditions, rejected limitations, and refused to bow to authority. In any era, that mindset creates enemies. During filming breaks, Bruce would test reflexes with unexpected movements, tapping shoulders, flicking fingers, shifting weight. Not to intimidate, but to measure awareness. Bolo once admitted that Bruce's reaction time felt unnatural, almost inhuman. And yet, Bruce never abused his power. He warned against ego. He believed martial arts without philosophy was empty violence. Strength, in his view, was responsibility. But carrying that responsibility came at a cost. Bruce Lee pushed his body beyond normal limits. Extreme training sessions, minimal rest, constant experimentation with diet and supplements. According to Bolo Yeung, Bruce treated his body like a laboratory, testing how far it could go, regardless of consequences. There were signs, persistent headaches, sudden exhaustion, moments of silence where Bruce seemed lost in thought. But he never slowed down. The world wanted more Bruce Lee, and Bruce Lee demanded even more from himself. Bolo Yeung later confessed that many people mistook Bruce's intensity for confidence, but beneath it was a man constantly racing against something unseen. Whether it was time, destiny, or his own expectations, no one could say for sure. What is certain is this: Bruce Lee was not just performing martial arts. He was rewriting its future, and rewriting systems always comes with a price. As Bruce Lee's power grew, so did the pressure surrounding him. Contracts tightened, schedules became brutal, and the freedom he fought so hard to achieve began slipping away. According to Bolo Yeung, this was the moment when Bruce Lee became most vulnerable. Not physically, but spiritually, and that vulnerability would soon collide with forces far beyond martial arts. For years, fans believed Bruce Lee showed everything he had on screen. Every kick, every strike, every scream felt real. But according to Bolo Yeung, what the audience witnessed was only a carefully controlled fraction of Bruce Lee's true ability. The real shock wasn't how powerful Bruce Lee was. It was how much power he chose not to use. Bolo Yeung revealed that Bruce Lee was constantly aware of the danger his skills posed, not just to opponents, but to himself and to those around him. His speed and precision were so extreme that a single uncontrolled strike could cause permanent damage. This was not theory. It was experience. During private training sessions, Bruce Lee demonstrated techniques that were never filmed and never discussed publicly. Movements so fast they appeared invisible. Strikes delivered with such precision that they stopped just millimeters short of impact. According to Bolo, Bruce could end a confrontation before it even began, but he refused to. Bruce Lee believed that real mastery was not about domination. It was about restraint. This philosophy shaped everything he did. On film sets, Bruce carefully adjusted his timing so co-stars wouldn't get injured. He slowed his reactions so cameras could capture his movements. Many people mistook this for choreography. In reality, it was control at its highest level. Bolo Yeung admitted that there were moments when Bruce Lee accidentally revealed his true speed. In those moments, filming had to stop. The movements looked unreal, too fast to be believable. The illusion of cinema couldn't keep up with reality. And so, Bruce Lee learned to limit himself. But restraint came with consequences. Some fighters accused him of exaggeration. Others questioned his legitimacy. They didn't understand that Bruce Lee was performing below his actual capacity. According to Bolo Yeung, this misunderstanding frustrated Bruce deeply, but he never tried to correct it. Why? Because Bruce Lee understood something dangerous. Proving power invites challenge. He knew that openly displaying his full ability would attract people looking to test themselves, to provoke him, or to harm him. Fame had already made him visible. Revealing his true limits would make him vulnerable. Beyond physical danger, there was a psychological reason Bruce held back. Bruce Lee believed that exposing too much truth too quickly would destroy the system he was trying to build. Jeet Kune Do was still evolving. His philosophy was still forming. If the world misunderstood it, it could be reduced to violence instead of understanding. So Bruce Lee stayed quiet. Bolo Yeung described Bruce as a man constantly balancing between two worlds, truth and perception. The public wanted spectacle. Bruce wanted authenticity. Holding back was the only way to survive both. But the most unsettling revelation came when Bolo Yeung spoke about Bruce Lee's awareness of his own mortality. Bruce Lee believed that the human body had limits, but he was obsessed with finding them. He pushed his nervous system, reflexes, and endurance beyond what was considered safe. And yet, he restrained himself in public, creating a dangerous contradiction. Unlimited training, limited expression. According to Bolo Yeung, this internal conflict took a toll on Bruce Lee. He was always controlling himself, physically, mentally, emotionally. And control requires energy. Constant restraint creates pressure. Bruce Lee rarely relaxed. Even in casual conversations, his mind raced. He analyzed everything. His thoughts moved as fast as his body. Bolo believed Bruce's mind was always 10 steps ahead, and that pace was unsustainable. There were moments when Bruce expressed concern about the weight he was carrying. Not fame, responsibility. He knew people copied him. Every move, every idea, every philosophy influenced millions. One mistake could create chaos. So he carried the burden alone. Bolo Yeung stated that Bruce Lee wasn't afraid of fighting others. He was afraid of losing control. And in that fear, he built discipline stronger than any muscle. But discipline does not eliminate risk. As Bruce Lee continued to restrain himself publicly while pushing harder privately, his body began sending warnings. Signals that were ignored. Limits that were crossed. According to Bolo Yeung, this was the most dangerous phase of Bruce Lee's life. Not because of enemies, but because of imbalance. Too much pressure. Too much control. Too much silence. And then, suddenly, everything stopped. The world saw a legend fall. But few understood the cost of holding back a force that was never meant to be contained. The day Bruce Lee died, the world stopped breathing. News spread rapidly, but clarity did not. Headlines offered explanations, yet none felt complete. To the public, it was a tragic loss. To the industry, it was a disaster. But to those who stood closest to Bruce Lee, including Bolo Yeung, it was something far more disturbing. It felt unfinished. Bolo Yeung remembered the atmosphere that followed Bruce Lee's death as heavy and unnatural. Conversations became quiet. Questions were discouraged. Details were avoided. The world was given an official narrative, but those behind the scenes sensed that something didn't align. Bruce Lee was 32 years old, at the peak of physical condition, in the middle of redefining martial arts and cinema. His sudden collapse shocked even doctors. The explanation offered was simple, too simple for a man who lived such an extreme, disciplined life. According to Bolo Yeung, Bruce Lee was obsessed with understanding his own body. He monitored his health, trained intelligently, and adapted constantly. The idea that his death was purely random never sat right with those who knew him. Rumors began to spread immediately. Some spoke of exhaustion, others of medication reactions. Some whispered about pressure, stress, and forces that wanted Bruce Lee controlled or silenced. Bolo Yeung never publicly supported conspiracy theories, but he admitted something far more unsettling. There were questions no one wanted answered. In the days following Bruce Lee's death, the industry moved quickly. Projects were paused, contracts frozen, and discussions redirected. According to Bolo, it felt as though everyone was instructed to move on before understanding what truly happened. Silence became protection. Bolo Yeung described Bruce Lee as a man who attracted resistance simply by existing. He challenged racial barriers, exposed weaknesses in traditional martial arts systems, and refused to submit to authority. In any powerful system, such individuals create discomfort, and discomfort often leads to control. Bolo recalled that Bruce Lee spoke openly about the pressure he felt, not from fans, but from expectations. Studios wanted him to conform. Martial arts leaders wanted him quiet. Cultural gatekeepers wanted him predictable. Bruce Lee refused all three. After his death, that resistance vanished. According to Bolo Yeung, the speed at which the world accepted Bruce Lee's absence was unsettling. There was mourning, yes, but there was also relief in certain corners. Relief that a disruptive force was gone. This wasn't proof of wrongdoing, but it was enough to create doubt. Bolo Yeung admitted that what haunted him most were the final weeks before Bruce Lee's death. Bruce appeared thinner, more intense. He complained of headaches. He pushed through exhaustion like it was an enemy to be defeated. No one stopped him. No one slowed him down. Because Bruce Lee was unstoppable until he wasn't. Bolo Yeung believed Bruce Lee underestimated one opponent. He could not fight his own limits. But even that explanation felt incomplete. Why were some details sealed so quickly? Why were certain conversations never documented? Why did so many people who knew Bruce Lee choose silence over truth? Bolo Yeung carried these questions for decades. He never accused. He never speculated publicly. But privately, he replayed memories, searching for signs, warnings, patterns. He questioned whether Bruce Lee was given enough protection, whether the pressure placed on him was humane, whether the system benefited from his absence, and perhaps most painfully, whether Bruce Lee was alone when he needed help the most. Bolo Yeung stated that Bruce Lee lived faster than most men think. He burned with intensity. He absorbed pressure like fuel. But even the strongest fire consumes itself if left unchecked. The official story ended quickly. But for those who knew Bruce Lee personally, the story never ended. It lingered, in questions without answers, in silence without closure, in a legacy that feels both complete and unfinished. And after 53 years, Bolo Yeung finally spoke, not to accuse, but to remember. To remind the world that Bruce Lee was not invincible. He was human, and humans leave mysteries behind. For decades, Bolo Yeung carried a weight few could see. It was not fame. It was not rivalry. It was regret. When Bruce Lee died, the world mourned a legend. But Bolo Yeung mourned a friend, a man whose intensity, brilliance, and isolation he witnessed up close, yet never fully understood until it was too late. Bolo Yeung admitted that after Bruce Lee's death, he replayed every conversation, every training session, every quiet moment they shared. He searched for signs, moments where he could have spoken up, slowed Bruce down, or simply asked if he was okay. But he didn't. At the time, Bruce Lee seemed unstoppable. He was driven, focused, and disciplined beyond reason. Questioning him felt unnecessary, almost disrespectful. Bruce was the leader, the visionary, the man everyone followed. And so, like many others, Bolo Yeung stayed silent. Years later, that silence became his greatest regret. Bolo recalled moments when Bruce Lee appeared exhausted but refused to rest. Moments when his eyes looked distant, as if his mind was somewhere else. Moments when headaches interrupted conversations, only to be dismissed seconds later. Bolo noticed. Others noticed, but no one intervened. Why? Because Bruce Lee never asked for help, and strong men are often punished for that. Bolo Yeung confessed that he once considered telling Bruce to slow down, to rest, to step back from the pressure. But Bruce Lee's intensity was intimidating, not through aggression, but through certainty. He believed in his path completely. Challenging that belief felt impossible. After Bruce Lee's death, Bolo Yeung withdrew. He avoided interviews. He avoided questions. He avoided the spotlight that constantly reminded him of what was lost. The world wanted stories. Bolo had none to give, only emotions he didn't yet understand. As years passed, Bruce Lee's image grew larger than life. Statues were built. Quotes were shared. Philosophies were commercialized. But the man behind the myth slowly disappeared. That hurt Bolo Yeung the most. Bruce Lee wasn't a symbol to him. He was a human being, flawed, intense, exhausted, brilliant. Bolo believed the world loved Bruce Lee's strength but ignored his struggle. And perhaps that was the real tragedy. Bolo Yeung admitted that guilt followed him quietly. Not dramatic guilt, but the kind that appears late at night. In unanswered questions. In thoughts that never leave. What if I had spoken up? What if I had noticed sooner? What if Bruce wasn't as invincible as we thought? These questions had no answers. But they had consequences. Bolo Yeung described aging as a process of reflection. As time passed, he realized that strength without balance becomes self-destruction. And Bruce Lee lived on the edge of that balance. He trained harder than anyone, thought deeper than anyone, pushed further than anyone. But he carried it alone. Bolo Yeung finally understood that Bruce Lee didn't need another fighter beside him. He needed someone to tell him to rest. That realization came decades too late. When Bolo Yeung finally decided to speak, it wasn't to expose secrets or accuse institutions. It was to humanize a legend, to remind the world that even the strongest among us can break. Bolo stated that if Bruce Lee were alive today, he would want people to understand one thing above all else. Mastery begins with listening to yourself. Ignoring pain is not discipline. Ignoring limits is not strength. These were lessons Bruce Lee taught others, but perhaps never fully applied to himself. Be on the lookout. Yeung ended his confession with a simple truth. He didn't lose a rival. He lost a brother. And the silence between them, the words never spoken, is something he will carry for the rest of his life. Bruce Lee's body left the world more than half a century ago, but his presence never did. Legends don't survive because of strength alone. They survive because their ideas outgrow time. And Bruce Lee was not just a martial artist. He was a thinker, a philosopher, a disruptor who changed how the world understood power, identity, and freedom. Bolo Yeung believed that Bruce Lee's greatest legacy was not speed or technique. It was liberation. Bruce freed martial arts from rigid traditions. He rejected the idea that one style fit all. He taught that truth must be discovered, not inherited. Absorb what is useful. Reject what is useless. Add what is essentially your own. This philosophy went far beyond combat. It applied to life itself. Bruce Lee encouraged people to question authority, challenge systems, and trust experience over dogma. That mindset reshaped martial arts forever and quietly influenced generations of thinkers, athletes, and artists. After Bruce Lee's death, the world tried to freeze him in time. Posters, films, quotes, statues. But Bolo Yeung believed this did Bruce a disservice. Bruce Lee was never meant to be preserved. He was meant to evolve. Even in death, Bruce Lee continued to inspire transformation. Mixed martial arts, modern combat sports, and cross-training philosophies all carry his fingerprints. Fighters today practice what Bruce imagined decades earlier. He was ahead of his time, and that is why his story still feels unfinished. Bolo Yeung stated that Bruce Lee's true power was not dominance. It was adaptability. He refused to be limited by labels, cultures, or expectations. He existed between worlds and invited others to do the same. But with that freedom came isolation. Bruce Lee paid the price of being different. He carried pressure no one else could feel. And yet, he never abandoned his vision. That courage is his immortality. Bolo Yeung believed that if Bruce Lee were alive today, he would remind people of one simple truth. Strength without awareness is empty. Bruce Lee taught discipline but not rigidity. Power but not arrogance. Confidence but not ego. These contradictions made him misunderstood and unstoppable. Over time, Bolo Yeung made peace with his regrets. He realized that legacy is not about perfection. It is about impact, and Bruce Lee's impact is immeasurable. Children who never saw his films still quote his words. Fighters who never met him still train by his philosophy. Artists, entrepreneurs, and thinkers continue to draw strength from his ideas. That is not nostalgia. That is relevance. Beyond a Lookout, Yeung ended his reflections by saying that Bruce Lee never wanted to be worshipped. He wanted to be understood. He wanted people to live honestly, train intelligently, and question fearlessly. Bruce Lee once said that life is better lived through experience, not explanation. And perhaps that is why his story still speaks, because it invites us to participate, not observe. Bruce Lee's journey reminds us that greatness comes with cost, that pushing boundaries invites resistance, and that true mastery begins with knowing when to push and when to let go. The dragon did not disappear. It transformed, and it continues to live wherever someone refuses limitation, rejects fear, and chooses truth over comfort.